Donohue and talk a little bit of high school recruiting and a little bit more about Ahmir Mitchell in that video. Good morning, Tyler.
Hey, good morning. How are we doing today?
Hey, pretty good. Talking a lot of high school football today, as you can imagine, with Ahmir Mitchell signing with Michigan. You obviously had some inside information with that, with Bleacher Report doing up that video. Tell us a little bit about that video and how that all came about. Yeah, I was asking if you could tell us a little bit about the sort of the promo video that you guys did with Ahmir and in terms of leading up to the announcement. How did that all come about?
Sure, yeah. Well, the first time I really met Ahmir Mitchell, I was in the same seat you're in, working with the South Jersey Sports Report and, covering him in that really impressive 2011, 2012 season that they had. So we had some track record, had a chance to, follow his brother's recruitment a few years ago when he eventually went to Arkansas and kind of maintain that. And, Ahmir and I would catch up from time to time. Wrote a couple stories on him for Bleacher Report as things started to progress in his recruitment during the past 12 months or so. And then we got to the point where, he felt very comfortable with kind of those top two options, Ohio State and Michigan. He was very public about it. By the end of it, it came down to those two Big Ten teams. And obviously when you're talking about the Wolverines and the Buckeyes, you got Jim Harbaugh in the mix, Urban Meyer in the mix, and obviously a lot of championship trophies as well from the past 100 years. And it's just a great rivalry.
Yep.
So we were trying to, when we do these things, and we've now done, I would say, close to 10 of these commitment videos that we try to kind of set up as theatrical trailers to get the fans hyped up. And obviously the most important thing, though, for us is having the prospects comfortable, because we want it to be something where 30 years down the line, when Ahmir Mitchell's done playing football, he can go show his kids, this video and say, look what your dad was when he was in high school, and, look how proud of my hometown I was. So he wanted to really incorporate Atlantic City. That's a special place to his heart. And the folks at Steel Pier were accommodating for what we wanted to do. And the tricky part, obviously, making sure you get everything right with that banner playing and the timing. And we have a fantastic film crew. So really spent, the film guys spent a couple days there. They got up early with Ahmir, I think 5 a.m. To film him doing some training. And he really does put in the work. It's not just for the video. He puts in a lot of time in the weight room and just running around his neighborhood. So we spent a lot of time with Ahmir, and I got to give a big shout out to the guys at Cedar Creek, because we got to steal away their biggest weapon for, a big day of practice. They were out there on the field, and they were letting us kind of run all over the place with Ahmir and just kind of having some fun a couple weeks ago. So thanks to offensive coordinator Mike Isbro and head coach Tim Watson for, letting us take their number one target and, really have a lot of fun with it. And the hardest part for me was sitting on that information for a couple weeks, and getting chances to peek at the raw footage that our video guys have passed along, and finally we got to show the whole country, and Ahmir, most importantly, got to tell Coach Harbaugh that he is indeed going to Ann Arbor. So exciting for him, and I think it's just exciting for the Cape Atlantic League and South Jersey in general, which is huge for me since I grew up playing in the Cape Atlantic League in Middle Township, and to be able to do this on the local level. Whereas we've done these videos with guys from California and Georgia, be able to do it kind of in the backyard of where I grew up. It was special for me, and I hope it was special for Ahmir, and I hope it was special for South Jersey football in general.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Where can people check out this video? Is it on Bleacher Report?
Yeah, I think at this point, if you probably just Google Ahmir Mitchell's name, something will pop up there. Our video is on Bleacher Report. At this point, though, I have a feeling it's probably embedded in a lot of stuff, linked out to a lot of stuff.
Sure.
So, if you just Google it, check it out. It's about, a 95-second clip. And like I said, it's predominantly filmed at the Steel Pier, on the beach next to the Steel Pier in Atlantic City, and then also over at Cedar Creek High School as well. We were able to use some of their facilities to get some good shots there. And it's just really incredible. I remember walking into Cedar Creek for the first time a few years ago, when they just opened their doors, and that girls basketball team had such a great run to a state title game with just sophomores. And to look where they're at now as a program, they've sent multiple players to the Division I FBS level, and Ahmir now joins that list. His brother's there. They've got a player at UConn. So, kudos to them, because that's a lot of success in a short span of time.
Yeah, definitely. Now, talk about this video a little bit. For people who don't know kind of the stuff that we do in the journalism business, how many hours were put into producing a 1.5-minute video?
Quite a few. I think our tremendous video team up in New York City could probably answer that question better than I. My job on these kind of things is kind of the service facilitator between the player and obviously our video guys who really put in a lot of the legwork. They came down, and I think we actually had to deal with a big storm, which postponed everything for a day. So they were down here for probably 2 or 3 days. And then after that, post-production, they spent the last 2 weeks polishing it up, making sure everything was good with the mirror. And obviously, you want to double-check before you release a video like that. And, you still want to go to Michigan, right? The last
right.
thing you want is to blow a kid's cover like that. But, yeah, it was, I think, a lot of work. And like I said, I'm not on the technical side of it, but from a production standpoint, we had some meetings. We had some conference calls with Ahmir where he was able to hop on, had a chance to, go over things with Coach Watson, making sure everyone was comfortable. And, hopefully we can do it again. And we do have a few in the works. And so keep your eyes open because some special players are going to be committing through Bleacher Report to some big-time schools. And hopefully we'll get a chance to deal with some local guys again down the road.
Yeah, they really are awesome videos. Talk a little bit about Mitchell and his fit with Michigan. Were you surprised he picked Michigan over Ohio State, and how's he going to fit in there with Coach Harbaugh?
For me, it became apparent it was probably only 3 teams in the mix by the time we got to spring. I think I would put Rutgers in it still at that point. But by the time we got into June, it was Ohio State and Michigan. He had already visited those schools multiple times, went back to Michigan with his mother, and I think we all understand how important parents are and instrumental they are. Whether your son is getting a scholarship or whether you're paying for that tuition, you want to make sure he's in a comfortable environment for the next 4 or 5 years of his life. And obviously, from a professional standpoint, I went to school. My parents wanted to make sure I went to the school where I could set myself up to be a professional journalist, and that worked out. Whereas if you're a football player, you want to have all the things in place to potentially pursue things beyond the football field. But it's important for a guy like Ahmir Mitchell to go to a school that potentially puts you in place to make 7-figure paycheck playing the sport you love until you're 35, 40 years old, and then you can move on and figure things out after the NFL. Obviously, we're getting way down the line, but I think when you talk about what he brings to Ann Arbor and what he brings to Wolverines, I think he brings versatility. That's what I like about Ahmir Mitchell. I don't think he's a finished product on either side of the ball right now, but I really love what you see on both sides of the ball. I mean, big season last year, wide receiver. I had a breakout year offensively. I thought he looked the best he has as far as route running goes, and that's where he's going to start out. He did tell me, Ohio State, Michigan, both want me a wide receiver. Some schools kind of viewed him as a safety. To be honest, right now, I saw him play at the New York Jets facilities at a regional Nike camp in April. He played wide receiver. He played safety. He looked a little bit more comfortable to me in the defensive backfield in that given setting. Mm-hmm. But I think right now in the Cape Atlantic League, he's clearly head and shoulders from an athletic standpoint above most of the guys he's going after. So he does bring a lot of intimidating force from the defensive backfield. I think he has that ability to cover. I would probably say he can line up in the box because he's about 6'3". I think by the time he plays college football, he'll be well over 215. He might be in that 220-pound range, more looking like an outside linebacker potentially. But I do think wide receiver is where he will start at Michigan. And there's not a lot of proven commodities right now in the depth chart for the Wolverines at that position. When you look around, a lot of young players are going to be counted on, including a couple guys who have just enrolled to campus. They're true freshmen. So when Ahmir gets to campus next year, I don't think there's any reason he shouldn't have a shot to come in, compete for reps early, maybe crack the 2 deep. And if he can do that, I mean, sky's the limit. They're bringing in some really impressive quarterback talent to Michigan. They have more on the way. Jim Harbaugh obviously has built a reputation as a guy who can develop quarterbacks, develop offensive attacks. He was the one who brought Andrew Luck to Stanford. He was the one who obviously made Colin Kaepernick for a brief period of time look like one of the up-and-coming true stars at the quarterback position for San Francisco. So I think there's a lot of ingenuity in the offensive attack. They've got a lot of different guys who have NFL backgrounds on that coaching staff. So Ahmir's in good hands. I think he starts out a wide receiver. That's almost a lock. But don't be surprised 2-3 years down the line if he ends up cracking that starting spot as a safety in the defensive backfield. I do hope things work out for him because he's a guy who wants the ball in his hands, but I think he has got a great fallback option. It would be really cool down the road and very scary for Big Ten opponents if him and fellow New Jersey native Jabril Peppers end up playing together in the defensive backfield, because that is a ton of athleticism at one position. So it'll be fun to follow, though, and hopefully we're all watching him on national TV on Saturdays for years to come.
We're talking with Tyler Donohue from Bleacher Report, does a lot with high school football recruiting. Yeah, that would definitely be pretty cool to see him in Michigan, and a little bit different going from a couple hundred fans at Cedar Creek on a Saturday to 110,000 at Michigan Stadium.
Yeah, he's got the Saturday afternoon thing down going to Cedar Creek, so he's already kind of on the schedule with that.
What impresses you most about him? I know what struck me is just his composure. He's a great student in the classroom, carries a 3.5 and above GPA. For being only 17 years old, has really taken this recruiting process in stride. How does he compare to other recruits, and what stands out about him?
I think he really took an approach that was calculated and measured, and I think a lot of that credit goes to his mother, his older brother, and obviously Coach Watson and the rest of that staff at Cedar Creek for keeping him grounded. A big part of this process is knowing when to make your decision, because if you're looking to join a class at Ohio State or Michigan, you better make that decision pretty quickly. There's only a few guys in the country who those coaching staffs will sit on and say, hey, you can wait until signing day, we'll save you a spot. A lot of these schools, they'll offer 5 guys for 2 positions and say, come grab your spot if you want it, but once those 2 positions are filled, you can find another college football team to play for. So I don't know exactly how that relationship was set up for Ahmir, if there was any kind of timeline in place with the Wolverines, but clearly he felt comfortable enough to announce his decision 2 weeks ago. And at that time, I had a chance to talk to Tim Watson, the head coach, when we were there filming, and he said, we really didn't want him to get into something like Ahmir did. Ahmir Mitchell, his older brother, who played quarterback and safety, led the team to a sectional state championship a few years back, and had Ahmir as a freshman wide receiver. He committed to Georgia Tech relatively early in the process. That's a spot where he could play quarterback, and that was very important to him. He ended up going to Arkansas eventually and starting at quarterback and now playing wide receiver, switched over last year. But I think that was part of the process, because he saw Ahmir have to deal with committing to Georgia Tech, then decommitting from Georgia Tech, and then he was very interested in Brett Bielema, head coach at Wisconsin. Then Bielema leaves and goes to Arkansas, and eventually near signing day, Ahmir finally makes that decision going down to the SEC. So I think it's a lot more smooth for Ahmir Mitchell and comparative to Duop, because he's able to now enter his senior season, which starts next weekend, knowing full well he's going to Ann Arbor. He's got ambitions to enroll early, so everything seems to be in place there from an academic standpoint. As you mentioned, he takes care of business off the field as well. So I think when it comes to his recruitment, very savvy approach. And again, I can't give enough credit to the people who are around him, because so much times when you see a recruit go a little bit awry with this process, it's because he doesn't have that guidance or he's got the wrong kind of guidance. I think all the pieces are in place for Ahmir Mitchell to succeed as a recruit. And then when he gets to Michigan, he'll have that support staff. And the good thing is he'll have some company from this area with him at Michigan, because they've recruited this area really well. So he will have, some guys he can count on up there as well. And that's huge, especially if you're going, pretty far away from your hometown. So I would certainly say Ahmir approaches very well, and assuming things stay on track for him, and assuming Jim Harbaugh doesn't shock the college football world and leave Michigan anytime soon, this is pretty much going to be an anticlimactic conclusion to his recruitment. Aside from the banner plane, I guess I should say, but the next few months, though, it's going to be nice for him. He can focus on trying to go out with the championship at Cedar Creek, instead of doing what a lot of recruits do and trying to line up 4 different visits and going this place and going that place. And I guess he'd probably make an official visit to Michigan at some point, but he can really be flexible with that. Instead of a lot of these recruits, if they ever have a bye week or they ever have downtime, they got to find their way to a college campus because they're scrambling for their ultimate destination, and that's checked off the list right now for Ahmir.
Real quick, Tyler, we got about a minute left with you.
Sure.
Anybody else catching your eye from the Cape Atlantic League?
From the Cape Atlantic League, you know what? Unfortunately, I'm far removed from it at this point. I'm a couple years away since I covered it. So I would certainly have to do my homework a little bit. I know they got a couple players on that Cedar Creek squad that Coach Watson made sure to point out to me, and he's got a good track record of putting those guys in college at this stage. So
yeah, another young guy, Bo Melton, coming up right behind Ahmir. So they got some great wide receivers out there.
Bo Melton, and obviously he's got a lineage, with his last name. And then I think they had an offensive tackle in the 2017 class who looked pretty darn good. He already very solidly built. So that's the only team I've seen in person this year. But I have to tell you, the Cape Atlantic League very well represented. South Jersey well represented. I think you're going to see a lot of guys at Penn State do big things. Brendan Bell, Mike Gesicki, and then you look down at Delaware with Wes Hills from Wildwood, and certainly I think Brandon Bell is going to be a star, who I mentioned from. I think he's going to be a stud at Penn State this year. Another guy to watch, Corey Clement from Glassboro. This kid's taking the reins as a starting running back up at Wisconsin this year. Melvin Gordon, after his Heisman campaign, now with the San Diego Chargers. So the job does belong to Corey Clement, who's the all-time leader in South Jersey rushing yards out of Glassboro High School. Keep an eye on him as well. A lot to be proud of if you're a South Jersey football fan or a South Jersey football alumni like myself.
Outstanding. Thanks for the time, Tyler, and the insight. We'll be catching up with you soon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a great weekend here in South Jersey, and I really do appreciate you guys for having me on.
No problem. Thanks, Tyler.
All right, take care.
All right, that was Tyler Donohue from Bleacher Report.